Welcome to Distracted, the podcast with Angela Lockwood, the place where you will find practical brain-boosting strategies, expert insights, and real-life stories to help busy brains thrive in the age of distraction. Let's go. Welcome to Distracted. I'm Angela Lockwood, and I am joined today by somebody who I really admire his work. You probably would have heard from him, heard about him, I should say, maybe heard from him. He's quite prevalent on LinkedIn and a whole range of other media outlets, but I'm joined by Matt Elliott. And now I'm going to have to read off some of Matt's bio here because I know that I will get confused with it because he's got such an illustrious career that leads him into this conversation. He is the author of The Change Room, and the tagline, which I just love, is play the game of your life. And we are so going to jump into that in this episode. He's the former NRL head coach and assistant coach and all different levels of coaching in so many teams that I would not even be able to list them off here, both here in Australia and overseas. So he's worked with elite athletes his entire career. He's got a really strong interest in mindset, and he's the founder and director of The Change Room, which again we will jump into. But Matt Elliott, thank you so much for being here on Distracted.
You're welcome, Angela. Like, what a perfect title. I mean, I'm going to live up to this. This is the easiest title to link into.
Oh, Matt, if I had, I think 5 cents, if we still have 5 cents in circulation, I'm not sure. If I had 5 cents for every time someone hears that I'm the host of Distracted and they go, oh my gosh, I need to listen to that, I think I could be a very, very wealthy woman.
Yeah, welcome to modern life.
Yeah. Now, Matt, I mentioned in the intro very briefly that you've had such an illustrious career as a coach in the National Rugby League, in NRL. Can you tell us a little bit about how did you come to be in that world? And I guess we'll get into all the details of what you learnt from that. But how did you become a coach in rugby? Rugby league, I should say, for people. I'm going to get some comments there of people going, it's not rugby, it's rugby league.
It's fine. It's fine. Don't be precious.
Yes.
I guess, and I've been told by one of my mentors not to give this away, but I'm just about, well, I think we're going to talk about my second book. We're just about to finish that. But my third book is going to be called A Life by Accident.
Yes.
So, and I wish I could say that's all I ever wanted to be was play NRL footy and then become an NRL coach, but that's not the truth. Things just sort of appeared, never by surprise, but I just got... At the age of 28, I had to end my career because I had my 13th knee surgery, and my good friend, the doctor, said, mate, you need to give it away. And the head coach at the time, Brian Smith, asked me to come on the coaching staff. I was working in community services at that time, which was called Botany Municipal Council, and I was at a very young age a director of the whole community services department. But I got the opportunity to coach, and then I guess, people can look at the sport, but I look at it from a position that I got the opportunity to serve people and make a difference in their life. And I think that it's been, if you're looking for one theme through my life, you could get distracted by all the other stuff I've done in my life. But the one theme is that, I came from a family that was really into service, and I've managed to keep that going.
Yeah, and you're right, because to look at your bio, it is, you could get distracted by all of the amazing things, the teams you've been involved in. You've been a commentator. There's been so many things that you have done in your career. One of the big quotes that I have to admit, in looking and researching a lot more about you, Matt, and in your background, I really want to touch on, because I feel that this maybe would be a summary of your life to date, and I could be totally wrong. So I'd love to know what your insights into this quote is. But nothing can be changed until it is faced. So I read that about you. If you ever remember that you even said that, but what does that mean to you? So nothing can be changed until it is faced. And has that been drawn on all your background experience?
Yeah, and it's funny. I was thinking about the title of this and being distracted, and I think nothing can be changed for the better. That's probably the one thing I left out of that. until you actually understand what the change is and face it. And we'll talk about some of the challenges that we all face in life. But I had a few, and running away from it didn't work. Running away from it certainly only made the changes probably more acute in a negative direction. So life has a very interesting way for most of us. I'm talking about the rule rather than the exception, for most of us to get our attention and to send us in directions that we need to. And if we ignore, in my experience, if you ignore it, well, life and your body goes, well, okay, that didn't get his attention. I know what we'll do is we'll just ramp it up a little bit more, and we'll make these emotions more acute, and we'll get that physical issue in his body. We'll turn it up from a 7 to an 8. No, 8 doesn't work. Let's try a 10. So unless you turn around and try and understand what's going on in your life and become, I want to really talk about that too, become an expert in yourself. We're experts in everything, aren't we? The things we do, the podcasts we're on, the family that we have and the things that we're committed to and our interests, which is all great. But we have so little expertise in ourselves. We don't take any time to learn about ourselves. And as I say, my experience of that is there can be some quite acute consequences to ignoring, what's going on in your own life unless you face it.
Are you happy to expand on what those experiences have been for you? Because it's really easy for us to look at people's successes, but we often don't shine the light or acknowledge some of those sort of darker moments. Are you happy to share what some of those were for you?
Yeah, I guess like the one that probably is easy, we all have our, 10,000 examples of it. But the one for me was, in my last tenure as a head coach in New Zealand, with the New Zealand Warriors, I was, the club needed a lot of change, a lot of positive change, and there was a lot of opportunity there. But I was also experiencing, a couple of things going on, so relationship breakdowns, ignoring that and thinking that the answer to everything in life was to work harder and to accumulate more knowledge. And that's not, I've learnt that. So I ignored the emotional challenges I was having. I ignored the physical challenges I was having. And ultimately, that impacted my performance. And I got the sack from a job that I loved and I wanted to make a difference to. And the consequences for that, extended over a long period of time. I know if I would have sat there and went, you know what, I need to sit down and take responsibility for my part in, the relationship, but not being right, but also what's wrong with you? And it wasn't until I sat down and asked what's wrong with you that I was able to resolve, an autoimmune disease, which they say is not curable. The doctor told me you've had it for your whole life. Something in your behavior or your system has activated it, and you're going to have it for the rest of your life. And the prescriptions I give you, will mow the lawn. So sort of the seed's there, something watered the seed, this is going to mow the lawn. And I was able to get through that through changing my lifestyle and changing my perception of life. And I thought, well, that the doctor was wrong, but I was wrong because recently I probably back just on the other side of Christmas had some challenges and not being happy, but also some physical challenges. And that autoimmune disease went, okay, there's my opportunity. So it is still there, but it doesn't mean it needs to rule your life. It doesn't mean, for me, it doesn't mean I need to take, prescriptions all the time. It just means to me that I need to actually manage my lifestyle in a really positive way.
Yeah, thank you very much for your vulnerability in sharing that then, because I know a lot of people, particularly in you're in a very male dominated world. Male sports is very much often about keeping up health and appearances and going hard and driving forward high performance. Are you seeing that there is a shift in dialogue and conversation around things like what you just shared with being a little bit more vulnerable and saying, hey guys, we don't actually have all the answers here. We need to do a little bit of work in this space. Have you seen a shift in that?
Oh, most definitely. And there's a few reasons for the shift, Angela. First of all, one, the improvements that can be made in athletes now physically are minute. And the improvements that you can develop strategy is, again, so small between the best and the worst teams. So obviously the biggest area of, first of all, improving performance is in mindset, and getting, like I said, getting people to understand what mindset allows them to perform at their highest level. I think the other big thing that has contributed to that is back when I was playing, or back when I first started coaching. The way for you to serve people was to give them more information, and you've got to have that covered. That's redundant.
Mm.
You, you can you can be in denial about it, but that young people no longer need information from you. They can get it from AI. They can get it from computers straight away. So the thing that's become even more important is what you can't get from AI, and that's quality relationships, feeling safe, inspiration, that emotional connection that we talk about. So that's why what we call vulnerability, which that's so unfortunate that we have to call it vulnerability, because that's the way we just should be. It's called honesty, really. Is and taking responsibility. So I think, and I'm so grateful that we've evolved that way. People say, "Oh, back in my day," and I go, "Yeah, but a few hundred years back, people were going to coliseums to watch tigers eat slaves. I mean, we don't do that anymore. So you need to either embrace the change or be prepared to get left behind."
Yeah, and that is so true. You've just made me think about that, even the difference in how we approach high performance. And I know high performance is it's been, again, that sort of driving forward and making sure we're always, peak performance. But like you say, there's just such small increments of change that can happen now, or points of difference. You see these athletes who they're literally physical machines. They're just beautiful specimens who are elite levels, but really the point of difference, and I love that you just shared that, is around mindset. It's around how we turn up in that space, how we use the information we know. And I know one of the things that you do through the change room in particular is that you sort of help to bridge the gap between well-being and high performance. And I think that's a really interesting bridge, because we often, as you, I'm sure, over your career have seen, there's either a focus on high performance or there's a focus on well-being, and very rarely were the two combined. But I see a big change. Can you tell, or at least share a little bit about, what do you see as the bridging between well-being and high performance, and why is it an important relationship?
One word: common sense.
Yes.
And I'm not going to be frivolous with this, but there's no sustained high performance or performance without well-being. You can't stay there, and you can't be a peak performer unless you understand how to look after yourself. Equally, there's no well-being without performance. You can know all the stuff about well-being, but you've got to do stuff. You've got to do things. You've got to actually commit yourself to be a certain way, and that you might know how to do it, but that doesn't mean it's going to happen. You've actually got to do it. And I know I'm simplifying the answer, but it frustrates the life out of me. I do stuff with corporate organisations, for example, and they think well-being's about putting apples on the lunchtime table, and and I'm saying, and I got hit between the eyes with this by a CEO, and she really let me know about it. And I said, well, you got to understand that profitability and your sustainability will be peaked, will be elevated by you making sure you address performance. And the way to address performance is to address individual well-being. And that's not in what we see it in the traditional ways. It's not about getting on an exercise bike, and it's not about necessarily lifting weights. It's not about eating the perfect food. It's about having the right combination for you to ensure that your performance in whatever it is that you do, you have clarity, you have the physical capacity to do it, you are emotionally stable, so that you can then help the organization become productive and profitable.
Mm. Do you think those concepts scare organisations a little bit, thinking, well, it's not my responsibility, I'm the employer, it's up to the individual? Or do you think that workplaces are starting to embrace it more and going, we get it. We get that if our employees are healthy, then we've got a more profitable business? Or is it still a little bit scary for owners or business leaders?
Yes, well, the ones that are scared are the ones that are going to go experience non-profit.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
because the truth is, Angela, like, my birth certificate's probably a little bit older than yours, but, when I was a kid, we had work-life separation. You know, the parents got up, they did all the kids' breakfast, they dropped you at school, and then they went to school. Then they went to work, and they worked, and then as soon as they left the door, they closed the door at work, and it was family. Then we had work-life integration, and then work-life balance. Now that's out the window. If you think that it's your staff's responsibility to look after their well-being, well, then you can't expect them to wake up in the morning, reach over, grab their phone, and check their emails, or see what happened in last night's shift. Don't do it. So the organisations that understand this know that they have to not only, put all the stuff in there that a lot of organisations do. They put the stuff in there, but they don't provide the knowledge and the incentive behind the stuff to get staff doing it. And once it doesn't have to be so profound. And I've seen it in so many organisations that we've had that all of a sudden they're saving all this money, first of all, because they're not having absenteeism, things like the psychosocial claims, which they used to call mental health, whatever you want to name it, all those claims are dropping down because you know what? Even if you're not perfect, there's an indicator to the people that are in your charge that you care about them and you want to elevate their health. So immediately they go, well, if you think someone cares about you, all of a sudden your attitude and your level of trust in them changes, doesn't it? It's not complicated. But some people complicate it, and some people are still stuck in that, but in my day, I had to do this. Well, it's not your day. Things have changed.
Yeah, yeah, you're so right. And I think that the evolution of workplaces, the evolution of people, the evolution of I guess people's mindsets and thinking about well-being has hopefully evolved, and it's not a lack of information that's the problem. It's a lack of application, I guess, for people to understand, well, what do I do with all of this? Like, I know, Matt, one of the things I did a little while ago is I just wanted to see if I could ask ChatGPT to write me a very specific program about what I should do for my health and well-being. I was just interested. I put in my age, I put in my injury history, I put in everything that I could think of that I would it would need to know. The program that it spat back out to me was mind blowing. Just went, I've got everything I need. I've got absolutely everything I need. Do you know what the problem was though, Matt? ChatGPT doesn't do it for me. It
Yeah.
doesn't get me up in the morning. It doesn't get me out the door. It doesn't make me go for a run. It's still that human element, like you mentioned earlier, that is missing. So I would love, if you don't mind, can you pull the curtain back a little bit on what's happening behind the scenes, I guess in the sporting arena, but also in corporate? What are some of the strategies that people or coaches are using with athletes or in workplaces with their employees to get that application of information happening? What, beyond the apple, as you say, beyond the fruit basket, what are some of those new things that people are doing?
Yeah. Well, it's fundamentally around human connection, Angela. And that's your description. And how good is, like, I've got no resistance to chat GTP, and I was so lucky I found out about it really early in the piece. I had my CEO knew about it, and I got exposed to it very early. And now I don't know. There's another one called Digital Deepak, and it's like, so that information is amazing. Okay, I'll answer your question. My big thing about information now, because I'm so curious about everything, but I have to keep asking myself, is this useful for me? And the next one is, or does it help me serve? Because even if I'm curious about it and I enjoy it, I've just I've learnt that I can't absorb too much. I've actually learnt that other people can't as well. So it kind of ties into a little bit what I'm saying is that you can share all this amazing information with people that are in your teams. But the thing that it's what the real thing that's most important is what used to be important a long time ago is human connection, about how you make someone feel safe in your environment, how you make them feel valued in your environment. And the way to that, it's not like what they're doing with kids and giving them a prize for, you know, this is an acknowledge of your contribution. The way to do it is to be honest. Well, it upsets me. I've got, my granddaughter. I went to a dance concert the other day, and I think everyone does need, but we need to be okay with failure. We need to acknowledge success, and we need to get that balance right. And in a high performance environment, that's what you need to be able to do. And because young people know so much, and it's the evolution of mankind's like it's gone from this, like when the mobile phone got invented, I think we're like this now, the amount of change that we are having to experience. There's not that much information that you can share with them that they're not going to know or can't Google or can't get access to like you did with your program. So it's really about that human connection and making them understand that the biggest cause of death and disease on the planet now is how people feel. They call it stress, heart disease, cancer, all this stuff, autoimmune disease is created by feeling. And that's the one thing that we do through human connection. So making people feel a certain way. And also, this is not about putting your arm around and cuddling them the whole time, Angela. This is sometimes, Angela, is it fair for me to expect better from you in this arena? Because I really have these expectations around you. It's not about cuddling them and giving them prizes for everything, but you can do that when you have high level relationships. If you don't have a high level relationship with young athletes, they are not going to respond to antiquated approach of you need to do this, and they're not going. It doesn't work. I've seen it. I've witnessed it, like not a few times, thousands of times.
So, Matt, tell me your health habits. I would love to know. You've your whole life and career has been helping people be at their peak performance, but also focusing on their well-being. So, what does Matt Elliott do to keep himself well and highly performing?
Yeah, well, I have to. I'm so fortunate. I've got no choice because if I don't, my body will go, okay, you can have this back. So again, I develop expertise in myself every morning. So I look inwards. Some people call it meditation. People call it breathing. Some people call it whatever you like. But I try and not think and just reflect on myself every morning. Again, the word meditation used to scare the shit out of people. I know it doesn't now, thank goodness. But yeah, I've been doing it for a long time. And I did it for performance reasons. And I got my teams to do it for performance reasons, which didn't go down that well when I first started doing it. But yeah, so my morning is finding out, how am I? How am I going? What do I want to do? What do I want to achieve today? Why am I feeling good? Why aren't I feeling good? All those things. So I normally spend about half an hour doing that. My background's in sports science, so my academic background. So I obviously that's an evolving thing, but as someone getting closer to 60 than 50, I get up every morning and I train, and I have a regime of training that's pretty consistent. I jump in an ice bath before I train, not after I train now, just to stimulate all those hormones. And then my next thing is to make sure I connect with people I care about. So I try and do that as a ritual every day. And it's got to be more than, g'day, how you going? What have you been up to today? Just sort of trying to ask some real questions. Again, I'm just calling myself out on that because I've slipped. It's easy to slip away from that. And I eat what I believe. We're really lucky. I think you've got exposure to Anthony Minicello, but I kind of follow Mini's 4 foundations of eating. I like to know where my food comes from. I like to make sure I prepare it in a way that enhances the nutritional value of that food. I fast most days. Well, I don't. Fasting's a funny word. I just don't eat breakfast. It's probably an easier way of putting it. So I give my body a bit of a rest. That's probably the key things. Again, it's all kind of common sense to me once you actually understand what those things do for you.
So what I'm hearing is looking inward and reflecting, eating well and moving your body and
Having
connecting with people you love.
having fun too. Fun
Yeah.
is the most underrated high performance tool in the world.
Oh my gosh, I love speaking about play, of course, with my background working with kids. I know that fun, laughter, all of that, it has such a profound physical and mental effect that is so underrated. And we get just a bit too serious nowadays, don't you think, Matt?
Oh, 100. You just look at all the most highest performing organisations that you know. I spent time at Google. I watched the Penrith Panthers, if there's any footy fans there, and they've dominated the NRL for a good. The last 4 years, they've made the grand final, won 3 of them. You watch them, and you can, they're super fit, they're super focused, but they have fun, and fun is a tool that allows you to access those states better than walking around being serious the whole time.
Yeah. Now, in your words, you're edging 60, closer to 60, not edging, but closer to 60 than 50.
Yeah.
I believe you have a new book coming out, which I feel very privileged that I have a little bit of insight on, and it's about aging. Are you able to share just a little bit about what your next book is about?
Yeah. Well, I'm co-writing it with a female author, so just so it's not too blokey. But I think one of the things that we all experience, like when I was a kid, someone my age was really old. Like, there's only really profound swear words that go with that. And what I've learned, and I'm really interested in a lot of the longevity stuff that's around at the moment, and about health span as opposed to lifespan. And we've got so much opportunity to be unhealthy in modern life. Really, it's like the food available, the availability of things just to sit on the lounge all day and do nothing, sit in front of computers all day and do nothing. But there's also some amazing stuff available to help health. So who chooses that? I know one's an easier choice than the other, but so it's really about. So there's one thing about making sure people are aware about these choices. The other thing is exactly what I said to you. There's my preconceived idea about getting to 60, for example, was the holy there's, again, more swear words, because that's old, and I don't feel old. But I can if I choose to, right? I can choose to use, and I can choose to treat my body as if it's old. I can choose to choose my mind as if treat it that way as if it's old as well. So I'm not. I'm deciding that I can do it differently. And fortunately, there's so much great literature. I'm a big fan of Dr. Mark Hyman. There's a guy called Peter Attia who's really cool, and a guy called David Sinclair who's a scientist from Australia. So they've sort of been at the leading edge of this. And I've got grandkids now that I love so much. I love spending time with, and I want to be able to have fun with them.
Mm.
I want to be able to enjoy life more than ever. So yeah, but it's interesting, like not only overcoming your preconceived ideas or your subconscious conditioning around age, but it's overcoming other people's as well. When I can remember, like, someone was talking to me about and engage with me if I wanted to do a job. And when they found out how old I was, I went, "Oh, are you going to be okay with that?" That kind of I kind of stepped back a little bit from that process. But yeah, it's something that we're all going to have to get our head around. Apparently, here's my last little boring bit for you. The first person to live to 150 has been born. That's what science is
Amazing.
telling us.
And it's amazing, isn't it? Because the evolution of humanity is basically, we've spoken about that a couple of times throughout our conversation. As we age, we need to look at how, what we see as well-being, but also what our interpretation of performance is as we age. And when can we expect to see your book out? It's exciting, Max. I think you're really there. I think this is information that needs to be shared.
I think we're going to be finished by July. That's a bit of the deadline that we've set for ourselves. Then it's just coming up with the right release time for it. So as you know, you got to get that right so that you get the most amount of exposure to it. But it's just been so fun. It's like that, that introspection that I do every morning. It's just been so fun to learn about the differences, but when between males and females, and again, you've got to be careful in modern life and how you say that, but we're dealing with the rule rather than the exception. Again, is that there are some things that we were different when we were 10, and we were different when we were 20 and 30, and so there are some differences that are probably a little bit more profound in later life. Particularly around purpose and meaning and how that changes. And it's been so insightful for me, learning about the female side of it. I'm dad of 4 daughters going, and again going, wow, that's so good to be aware of that. Well, you kind of are, but you don't actually understand or respect. So it's not just about how you can age, it's how you can also build an awareness of the person that you're spending your life with, or the people that you're around, so that you can respect some of the challenges and also some of the directions that they want to go. Again, it's been really interesting.
Well, Matt, I feel like I could keep speaking to you for a lot longer than what we are. I've got so many questions could still ask you, but I can't wait to see the new book. We don't know the title yet, but there's a new book, so keep an eye out for it. But for people who are listening and want to know more about Matt's philosophy, as you can hear, Matt has not only skills on the ground, he has the expertise and the knowledge, and also the life experience, which definitely can't be underestimated. You can head to the Change Room, play the game of your life, and read his book. We will link everything to Matt so you can find out more about Matt and also the work that he does in the Change Room. But Matt Elliott, thanks so much for joining me. I've absolutely loved our conversation. I feel like I'm going to jump off and write some notes for myself.
We can spend hours on this, I'm sure. But yeah, great fun, Angela. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Matt. Everyone, thank you so much for joining me here on Distracted. You've been listening to my conversation with Matt Elliott, founder and director of The Change Room and author of The Change Room, Play the Game of Your Life. If there's anything that we've talked about today that you feel that someone that you love and care about in your life needs to hear, then please share this with them. Buy a copy for yourself of Matt's book, and also one for someone that you love and care about, because you never know, just one thing out of our conversation today can literally change a person's life. So thanks so much for joining me. I'm Angela Lockwood. Until next time, have fun.
See you, Angela.